The world of aerial warfare is about to be shaken to its core as the United States Navy unveils what might be the most revolutionary leap in military aviation since the jet engine itself. The highly classified and newly revealed 6th-generation F/A-XX fighter jet, a stealth demon designed not just to dominate the skies, but to redefine how the skies are even contested, shocking adversaries, allies, and analysts alike with its mind-bending capabilities, blistering speed, and next-generation, artificial intelligence-driven combat systems. The F/A-XX isn't just a new aircraft. It's a flying war doctrine wrapped in titanium skin, an airborne ghost that will be the sword and shield of American power projection for the next 50 years. And as this jet streaks silently into the future, cloaked in the latest radar-absorbent materials and armed with hypersonic missiles, laser cannons, and autonomous swarm drone control capabilities, the message is clear. The United States isn't playing defense anymore. It's re-engineering the battlefield itself, making it nearly impossible for any threat, foreign or domestic, to gain air superiority when the F/A-XX is in the sky. Developed under the Navy's Next Generation Air Dominance, NGAD, program, and designed to eventually replace the F/A-18 Super Hornet by the 2030s. The F/A-XX is a result of decades of innovation, black budget research, and unmatched aerospace engineering from top-tier American contractors, including Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and Northrop Grumman, who have all poured their most advanced classified technologies into a single platform that's not only supersonic, but ultra-intelligent, capable of making battlefield decisions in milliseconds using onboard AI that fuses sensor data, battlefield awareness, and target prioritization to make human reaction time obsolete. We're talking about a fighter jet that doesn't just fly, it thinks, it adapts, and it survives against odds no previous generation jet could endure, as it seamlessly blends manned and unmanned modes, giving U.S. Navy pilots the option to fly traditionally or let the F/A-XX operate as a fully autonomous hunter-killer drone that can outmaneuver and outgun any known adversary, including China's J-20, Russia's Su-57, and any future threat that dares to challenge American supremacy in the air. The F/A-XX's stealth is a quantum leap ahead of the F-22 and F-35, utilizing plasma stealth technology, adaptive skin coatings, and internal emission suppression systems that reduce its infrared and electronic signature to nearly zero, making it virtually invisible to even the most advanced radar arrays being developed by foreign powers. And it's equipped with next-generation thrust-vectoring adaptive engine that allows for extreme maneuverability, faster-than-sound cruising without afterburners, and drastically reduced heat emissions, which not only improves its survivability, but makes detection via heat-seeking missiles incredibly difficult, and its ability to launch, control, and coordinate with a swarm of drone wingmen known as loyal wingmen transforms it into a force multiplier on a scale never seen before in human history, essentially turning a single F/A-XX into an aerial fleet capable of conducting electronic warfare, reconnaissance, jamming enemy radar, and launching precision strikes, all at the same time. Pilots who have reportedly tested the F/A-XX in simulated combat have stated off the record that it's like flying the future, with an augmented reality cockpit that overlays a 360-degree view of the battlefield, real-time threat indicators, and targeting overlays that use AI to recommend evasive maneuvers and firing solutions before the pilot even has to think, giving them the ultimate edge in survival and lethality. While the aircraft internal weapons bay holds a classified number of hypersonic missiles capable of traveling at over Mach 5 and striking targets hundreds of miles away with pinpoint accuracy, completely overwhelming traditional anti-air defenses, and rendering legacy airframes obsolete. Not to mention, the F/A-XX is built with future upgrades in mind, meaning it's modular, scalable, and capable of integrating next-gen tech like quantum sensors, directed energy weapons, and even advanced nuclear microreactors if necessary, keeping it lethal deep into the mid-21st century and far beyond. And while the exact specs are still under wraps, leaked insider reports and military briefings suggest it has a combat radius exceeding 1,500 miles, fly-by-light controls, near instantaneous data linking across the entire naval battle network, and enough onboard computing power to simulate millions of battle scenarios in real time, choosing the best course of action based on live threat input, environmental factors, and mission goals. This fighter is not just a tool. It's an autonomous battlefield partner that transforms every naval carrier into a floating fortress and every air wing into an unstoppable ghost fleet. And the very existence of the FAXX signals a clear warning to America's rivals that the days of contested airspace are over. If it flies, the FAXX will see it, track it, and eliminate it before it even knows it's been targeted. Its unmatched survivability comes from its triple-layer electronic warfare suite, capable of spoofing radar signals, scrambling enemy communications, and even launching cyber attacks mid-flight to blind enemy drones or disable incoming missiles. And this makes it not just a fighter, but an electronic war machine in the sky, able to disable entire enemy defense networks before the first missile is ever fired. This is why U.S. defense analysts are calling it the end of air warfare as we know it, because once the FAXX is deployed at scale across U.S. Navy carrier groups, the balance of power in the Pacific, the Middle East, and beyond will shift so dramatically that even the most aggressive adversaries will be forced to rethink their military strategies entirely, especially nations like China and Russia who have invested heavily in anti-access and area denial, A2/AD, strategies, which the FAXX was specifically built to defeat with stealth penetrations, long-range strikes, and drone swarm decoys that saturate and overwhelm enemy defenses. This aircraft doesn't just participate in the kill chain. It is the kill chain, initiating, coordinating, and executing full-spectrum dominance missions without requiring vulnerable human intervention. And as U.S. carriers prepare to integrate the FAXX by the early 2030s, the global implications are massive, from nuclear deterrence to humanitarian intervention, from conflict response to strategic reconnaissance. No other nation has anything close. And even if they try, the U.S. is already 2 decades ahead in this game of aerial chess. Because while other countries are still mastering 5th-gen technology, the FAXX has already flown past into a new era where speed, stealth, software, and swarm integration converge into a single unstoppable force, a true American legend in the making, built not just to win wars, but to prevent them through overwhelming capability, sheer psychological dominance, and technological superiority that speaks louder than any threat ever could. And as military insiders continue to leak whispers of secret test flights over Nevada, deep-sea carrier trials in the Pacific, and AI-powered dogfight simulations where the FAXX defeats every known threat within seconds, it becomes clear that the United States Navy is about to deploy the most lethal, intelligent, and untouchable fighter aircraft in human history. One that doesn't just change the game, but flips the table entirely, ensuring that when the FAXX takes the skies, no enemy will dare follow. And while the world speculates and watches in awe, what remains unseen is even more terrifying. Because beneath the visible shell of the FAXX lies a deeply integrated military artificial intelligence system codenamed Vigilant Strike, an autonomous war brain designed not only to fly the aircraft without human hands, but to calculate enemy maneuvers, electronic vulnerabilities, and even global satellite input in real time, making tactical decisions faster than any living being could ever process. This is where warfare enters the age of thinking machines, and the FAXX is a spearhead, with software modeled after deep learning neural nets trained in millions of virtual combat hours, simulated against every known aircraft type, surface-to-air missile system, and electronic warfare platform, making it the ultimate predator not just of hardware, but of data and decision-making superiority, ensuring that in a fight, the enemy doesn't just lose air superiority, they lose the ability to even think about fighting back. And this terrifying capability is already being tested in closed scenarios where the FAXX was matched against squadrons of legacy aircraft, F-15s, F-16s, even early model F-35s, and reportedly wiped out the opposition with a 100% success rate, undetected, unhittable, and unchallenged, using electronic deception, cyber jamming, and laser-guided swarm tactics to dismantle every enemy before the first radar lock could even be achieved. Now add to this its rumor-directed energy weapon system, an onboard laser cannon capable of melting enemy optics, frying drone wings, or shooting down incoming missiles at the speed of light. And the FAXX begins to sound less like a fighter jet and more like a god of war, descending from the clouds with righteous fury to annihilate anything that dares cross its path. And for those wondering how such a beast can be deployed effectively in the middle of the ocean, the answer lies in its compact, carrier-optimized design, featuring folding wingtips, electromagnetic catapult compatibility, and vertical takeoff variants currently in prototype phase, which means it can operate from the Navy's supercarriers, light carriers, and potentially even land-based runways under expeditionary conditions, making it the most flexible war machine ever created, capable of responding to threats anywhere on the globe within hours, not days. It also features a next-gen adaptive infrared suppression system, allowing it to fly undetected in contested regions like the South China Sea or the Arctic Circle, where conventional stealth breaks down due to environmental interference, and with its ability to connect to space-based systems, AWACS aircraft, and submarine sensor nets in real time via the Joint All-Domain Command and Control JDC2 network. The FAXX becomes the centerpiece of the Pentagon's entire future war fighting strategy, ensuring that every branch of the U.S. military, air, sea, space, and cyber, can act in unison, instantly, without gaps in intelligence, command, or firepower, and the implications for global military power cannot be overstated. With this aircraft, the U.S. Navy can eliminate entire air defense zones, disable enemy satellites with precision electronic bursts, or even deploy autonomous drones to rescue downed pilots or deliver ordnance inside underground bunkers, all while maintaining complete operational silence, because the FAXX's communication systems are encrypted with quantum key distribution, technology so advanced that any attempt to intercept it renders the data unreadable and alerts operators instantly, ensuring the jet's location, mission, and targeting remain invisible to foreign cyberwarfare units. And while other nations scramble to replicate the success of fifth-generation platforms, America is already flying something so advanced, so deeply networked with intelligent satellites, underwater sonar fields, and AI war rooms that it renders the battlefield itself a weapon, one sculpted and reshaped in real time by the presence of a single aircraft capable of turning enemies into shadows and targets into smoking craters. And perhaps the most staggering revelation of all is that the FAXX isn't even the end point. It's the beginning of something far bigger, an entire family of sixth-generation systems, including stealth refueling drones, AI reconnaissance swarms, and unmanned autonomous fighter pods that will accompany the FAXX into battle like digital wingmen, multiplying its effectiveness and spreading its influence across every inch of contested airspace. It's no longer a question of air superiority. It's total multi-domain supremacy, and countries like China, Russia, and Iran know this, which is why recent satellite imagery shows them scrambling to deploy early warning sensors in the Pacific, building radar stations deep in the deserts of Xinjiang, and launching space-based surveillance networks that are already being jammed or blinded by U.S. electronic warfare systems linked to test models of the FAXX. And make no mistake, this is psychological warfare as much as it is kinetic, because the mere presence of a carrier group equipped with FAXX fighters in a region instantly shifts the balance of power, deterring aggressors, calming allies, and asserting U.S. dominance with no shots fired. Just a whisper of jet wash at the edge of radar range, and the electronic scream of a ghost aircraft that sees all, hears all, and strikes with surgical precision. Military analysts believe that the introduction of the FAXX will initiate the biggest global arms race in aerial combat since the Cold War, with rival nations desperately trying to fund their own sixth-gen programs or invest in asymmetric warfare strategies like cyber attacks and hypersonic missiles in a futile attempt to level the playing field. But even these efforts are already anticipated. The FAXX is designed with onboard threat modeling, systems that can predict probable future weapons developments by scanning open-source data, analyzing military drills, and tracking adversary satellite movements, effectively staying ahead of any threat that might evolve to challenge it. And for the American pilot, this aircraft is a dream. Fully immersive neural interface helmets that allow them to control drones, issue commands, or pull off evasive maneuvers with mere-eye movement or thought prompts, reducing cockpit workload and increasing situational awareness tenfold, while an emergency combat override feature allows the aircraft to seize control if the pilot is injured, unconscious, or overwhelmed, automatically flying to safety or finishing the mission autonomously if necessary, making every sortie safer, more lethal, and more intelligent than anything before it. And when it comes to logistics, the FAXX shatters old paradigms with a modular repair system, onboard self-diagnostics, and 3D printed structural components that can be produced on aircraft carriers or mobile field stations in less than 12 hours, drastically reducing downtime and increasing sortie rates in active combat zones. Imagine a squadron of these machines deployed in a flash conflict over Taiwan, or in a show-of-force operation in the Black Sea. No enemy aircraft, no missile battery. No radar dome would survive the opening hour. And no commander in their right mind would send their pilots into the sky owned by a fleet of FAX-XS. Because this is not just a jet, it is air dominance. And now, as the U.S. Navy quietly refines the final iterations of the FAX-X, the world edges toward a new threshold of military doctrine. One where the skies are no longer merely contested, but completely reimagined by the very presence of a platform so technologically advanced, so supremely dominant, that even the thought of engaging it invokes a deterrent effect unmatched since the introduction of nuclear weapons. And as strategic planners at the Pentagon lay out wargame simulations involving potential hotspots, Taiwan, the Persian Gulf, the South China Sea, Eastern Europe, one common thread emerges. The presence of the FAX-X not only tilts the outcome, but often rewrites it entirely, turning what could be years-long conflicts into hours-long shock and awe campaigns, where enemy infrastructure is dismantled in precise strikes before conventional forces even move in, and behind closed doors, top brass from allied nations such as the UK, Japan, and Australia are already in classified discussions for joint exercises, cooperative deployments, and technology sharing programs involving the FAX-X, because this aircraft isn't just a U.S. advantage. It's the cornerstone of the entire Western Alliance's future deterrence strategy. And while adversaries scramble to reverse engineer similar capabilities, the FAX-X program stays 3 steps ahead, backed by black budget funding streams, DARPA innovations, and private defense contractors operating at the cutting edge of quantum computing, hypersonic propulsion, and bio-neural interface tech, ensuring that what flies today is already being upgraded for tomorrow, with modular airframe adaptability, allowing the FAX-X to shift roles mid-mission, from stealth bomber to electronic warfare hub to unmanned command and control relay, turning a single aircraft into a fleet-level asset. And insiders reveal that the U.S. Navy has begun constructing entire combat strategies around the aircraft's presence, launching the first true kill web doctrine, where every sensor, shooter, and satellite in the U.S. arsenal is dynamically linked to the FAX-X in real time, allowing for missile strikes launched from submarines to be guided by data picked up from the fighter jet's passive radar sweep, or for drone swarms over enemy territory to be commanded through the FAX-X's secure satellite uplink, while the pilot monitors threat vectors through a full-spectrum augmented reality HUD so advanced it overlays 3D topography, enemy silhouettes, electronic fields, and friendly units in real time as if viewed from a god's eye perspective, creating a cockpit experience that is more like commanding a battle from space than flying traditional fighter jet, and in live-fire tests at undisclosed locations. The FAX-X has already demonstrated the ability to engage and neutralize hypersonic missile threats using advanced energy pulse projectors and kinetic interceptors deployed from internal bays at Mach speeds, which means even future threats once thought unstoppable are now targets in the FAX-X's crosshairs. And let's not forget the psychological impact. Because nothing shakes an enemy's will like knowing their skies are no longer theirs. That any radar ping could be the last signal before total blackout. That no amount of electronic camouflage, maneuvering, or speed can outsmart the AI that guides the FAX-X like a digital falcon. Always one move ahead, always watching, always silent until the moment it strikes with lethal finality. And as global tensions rise and flashpoints multiply, from Arctic airspace to Middle Eastern no-fly zones, from cyber attacks to space-based laser systems, the United States has drawn a new line in the sand. Not with treaties, not with warnings, but with a whisper of afterburners and the glint of adaptive camouflage fading into the upper atmosphere as the FAX-X takes to the sky. A technological marvel that does not merely defend democracy, it enforces it with absolute certainty, standing as a flying citadel against tyranny, aggression, and technological parity. And while skeptics once asked if sixth-generation fighters were even necessary, today that debate is over, because now that the FAX-X exists, the only question is who can challenge it. And the answer is no one. Not now, not within the next decade, not with current global defense capabilities, because the leap between fifth and sixth generation is not evolutionary. It's revolutionary, akin to going from a musket to the missile, from wooden ships to nuclear-powered supercarriers, and America, once again, leads the way. And future naval operations will be planned not around carrier groups alone, but around the deployment matrix of the FAXX, its drone entourage, its airspace denial radius, and its unmatched ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance capabilities, which have been upgraded with quantum-enhanced imaging sensors and long-range biometric scanners able to track targets inside urban environments or beneath jungle canopies without relying on satellite feeds, making the FAXX not just a fighter, but a flying spy, assassin, and air marshal rolled into one. And with adversaries now forced into an arms race they cannot win, even economically, America's strategic dominance enters a new era where fewer assets yield greater outcomes, where one squadron of FAXX fighters has more combat potential than entire air forces, and where U.S. interests can be defended, projected, and enforced with minimal footprint, maximum precision, and zero compromise. And as deployment timelines narrow and rumors circulate of early-stage deployments aboard full-position carriers in the Indo-Pacific, the message becomes unmistakably clear. The future of aerial warfare has arrived. It flies under a shroud of silence and supremacy, and it answers only to the stars and stripes stitched onto the pilot's sleeve. The FAXX isn't just a machine. It's a declaration, a warning, and a promise that the United States will never cede the skies, that freedom will always fly higher than fear, and that when the battle begins in the air, the outcome is already written in the contrails of the ghost aircraft no enemy will ever see coming until it's far too late. Welcome to the age of the FAXX, where the rules of air combat have been rewritten forever and America holds a pen.